We head into week 6 of the NFL. We are officially one third of the way through the NFL season. Jeff, this feels like a perfect time to check in on who we think could win it all this year. Welcome back to the Bet Canada channel. Katie Caldwell, Jeff Lloyd back here with you today. Jeff, let's start with the AFC. If you had to predict today, who would be your two teams in the AFC Championship?
I think I'm actually going to go the route of being the absolute gentleman here, Katie, and we are going to let you throw out your AFC choices first here.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
I love it.
it was great actually when when our guy TJ, certainly that helps us with our production work and obviously our storylining. When he put this out there today, I was like, wow, well, this makes perfect sense. We're going into week 6. We're basically a third of the way
Yep.
through. Yeah, I think it's, have some fun, and look, this could be great fodder 12 weeks from now, or we can find a way that this one gets buried in the YouTube search.
That is a really good point. Well, you know this about me. I cannot and will not stop talking about this team, the Indianapolis Colts. They lead the NFL in point differential. They have the fewest sacks surrendered. I think the Colts will host a playoff game, and I think their ceiling is Daniel Jones, which at the beginning of the year would have terrified me to say. And now at week 6, I don't think that's so bad. Honestly, Jeff, like Jonathan Taylor's playing out of his mind, the offensive line, the play calling. I'm so in on these Colts. They might not make it to the AFC champs, but I'm going to very irresponsibly say they are there. And then my other one, I was deciding between the Broncos and the Chiefs, and I hate saying that so much because, but with Kansas City for me, it feels like I'll believe it when I see it that they're not there. And we're finally starting to see them wake up. The last few weeks have started to look more like Kansas City. Like that game against the Jags, I think they should have won that one. I thought they were the better team. So with them, it's kind of an I'll believe it when I see it. But man, I almost feel like Denver is the more complete team right now. It feels like there's not a lot of weaknesses they have on that one. So I'll say Broncos. I'm going to say Colts and Broncos are my two.
All the John Elway folks in the world are probably, lost in their mind right now. Look, and we've actually it's been fun, obviously, following this Colts team to this point. And we spoke in the summer, and it was, y- there could go two ways what this franchise has been through. Losing your owner, it could just have everybody down in the dumps, and maybe it just doesn't work, or everybody just is achieving, ultimate plateaus, tiers with their play, and it really
Mhm.
does kind of feel like that right now with the Colts. Everybody is out there and everybody's playing hard, and the more success they have, the more that just seems to come their way. And what was a nice, cute little story in September is obviously starting to become a little bit of a louder story, which I'm sure
Oh,
the Colts
yeah.
probably aren't thrilled with. I'm sure they were just loving trucking on down the road with nobody kind of noticing exactly what was going on. Um, but certainly not the case now that he's sit here at 4-1. Um, no, we spoke a couple weeks ago about the Bills and didn't know if there was a loss coming for them anytime soon. Certainly that changed with the New England Patriots last Sunday night. And this is now one where maybe I have a little bit of worry with the Bills, even though I am going to put them in the AFC Championship, is are you going to be tested? And when I somebody got back to me about that and said, if you can't find, a loss for them, how good is that going to be for them? You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Because you just roll through and then all of a sudden, somebody watched enough film and, found a tell that nobody else exploited and, you end up on the wrong side of one. So I think for Buffalo, I just think record is going to go well for them. I think it's probably going to end up in a really good situation that most likely home field will go through Orchard Park, New York.
Mm.
And that place is insane to begin with. It'll be even more insane knowing that once we get to December, every game is going to be, well, this is the second to last game. This could be the last game, or
Yeah.
this will be the last game, which is just going to have that place just absolutely bananas and bonkers to play in if you're an opposing team. So I still think it's there for the Bills. I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I am going with it from the theory of yes, I'm concerned about their defense, but I've always been concerned about their defense this time of year, and they always seem to find a way to lock it up and tighten it up with an addition here or a guy comes back from injury as the season goes on. But, I talked 2 weeks ago about, this team was going to get Rashee Rice back, got Xavier Worthy back, and
Yep.
that obviously made a tremendous difference. Now now they're getting the running game. going a little bit more and starting to be a little bit productive. They have, a guy like Rashard Smith, who is just this ultimate weapon that if they want to add some legit speed at the running back position, Rashard Smith is certainly capable of doing that. And then you still are going to get Rasheed Rice. The thing for the Chiefs is they have been there so many times, and
Yeah.
there's other teams, they've been there, but they haven't gotten past it. And this is what we talked about over the summer with the Bills and the Ravens. They've been there, but nothing more ever came from it. I don't think much rattles the Chiefs as much as, you see the cameras and you see their frustrations on certain game days. But I'm still, and yes, I was thinking that, the Chargers, but now with no running game and, the defense with no running game, that means the
Yeah.
offense isn't holding on to the ball as long. Denver, I just wish Denver, I just wish there was one name on that Denver offense, where, push came to shove and it was just that guy. And Cortland Sutton certainly made some huge plays Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles to seal it. But I think Kansas City and Buffalo, and it seems kind of drab because we've certainly been down that road before.
Yeah.
But I think Buffalo's run through the East is probably going to be pretty easy. And I think the Chiefs are dealing with teams like the Chargers and the Broncos who have kind of contended, and certainly both were there last year. But no, neither really have the resolve or the know it all to basically know what it's like to get to the AFC Championship, let
Yeah.
alone get past it.
The Broncos to me look like they give a bit of what year was that? 2015 Super Bowl? Where it was the defense wins championships. Like I do see a bit of that because you're right that they don't have that like Cortland Sutton. I've been so impressed with, but they don't necessarily have a Jamar Chase. But I love their run game. J.K. Dobbins is just moving through that offense, and
Yep.
I do love their defense. That was a deciding factor for me heading into the season. I think I would have said Ravens and Bills. The Bills, I like I said to you before we started recording, I've changed my answers so many times on this. I still just see a lot of vulnerabilities in that Bills defense. And it just in the playoffs, especially, you never know. Like, because it's one and done, like the Bills, I think if it was a 5 game series, would win most of the time. But man, one and done, like weird shit happens in the NFL.
There's no question.
So let's move over to the NFC. Again, I changed my answers for these so many times this morning. My first one I have is the Detroit Lions. They're just one that I trust so much. I trust all their players, I trust their coaching staff. And it feels like they have a chip on their shoulder, especially because of that game against the Commanders last year. Like the Commanders won that game, but they also lost that game. Like that is still so shocking to me. It felt like they were a Super Bowl team last year, and they didn't have a ton of turnover. It's so much of the same core that man, these guys have got to want it. And the first, because they who did they lose to? Green Bay week one.
Yes.
They have just looked so different since then. I just can't think of a lot of teams that are stopping them and how they would. Like they can beat you in so many different ways. So I do have the Lions. I had the Eagles, but I've actually swapped them out with the Bucs just for fun chaotic purposes because the Eagles, we've talked about this time and time again now on this show. They cannot play a complete game for the life of them. And we've seen it every single week now where they look so good and they look so dominant and so strong. And then another team will go on an 18-point run, 21-point run. And again, it's the playoffs. You're playing against a team that is also a playoff team. I just don't know if I trust the Eagles like I did last year. Whereas the Bucs, man, the Bucs are just so fun. I think Baker Mayfield is early MVP candidate. Emeka Ibuka is one of the best players I've ever seen. Like we talked about on the show earlier this week. They have vulnerabilities too, but they just seem to have this attitude right now and this swagger. And I think so much of that does come from Baker Mayfield. I think he's just such a good leader that, man, when I watch them play, like, there's not a lot of matchups where I look at them and say they wouldn't be in that one.
Well, I am 100% with you. Both teams, absolutely. And
Mm,
there's a couple of things with Detroit. Yes, there is a huge part of Detroit losing that game last year in the playoffs at home to Washington, having lost the NFC Championship the year
yeah.
before. And then this summer, you had obviously all the talk of the Bears, Johnson coming. He's going to get the best there is out of Caleb Williams. And everybody Minnesota related. JJ McCarthy might go to the Hall of Fame, and he's only played about a game and a half in the NFL, which I'm sure Detroit, like, could the kid play before we just assume he's this great? And then the Parsons trade, late. So I think so many people thought, like, Detroit lost at home in that playoff game. Well, that's it. You were never a contender anywhere. You're Detroit. You stunk for all these years. No, no, no. You're not top of the no, 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 no. So I definitely think there is a huge part of Detroit that is using that, definitely, those two things to fuel their fire. And like right now, they're just not stepping over people. They are stepping on people
Oh,
as
yeah.
there's a lot of attitude with the way Detroit's doing this right
Yeah.
now. And rightfully so. Look, you can have that much fun and do it the style that they do it. Oh yeah, keep doing your thing. Tampa, and I think for Tampa, yes, there's been offensive line issues. They've overcome it. Last week, basically, they never run a game. Overcome it. There's reinforcements that are going to be coming back for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
But also, look, we're already at 4-1. And then Tampa Bay still gets 5 more games in the NFC South. They're not concerned about the Falcons. They're not concerned about the Panthers. They're
No.
certainly not concerned about the Saints. So you're telling
No.
me right now we're looking at Tampa at 4-1. I'm probably saying Tampa with those 5 more remaining division games are 9-1. Like, I don't think they're gonna
I
get
agree.
tested by in any of those 5 games by those teams, and that means all they gotta do is finish out the string from there. They
Mhm.
have proven that they can take the act on the road, went to the most difficult place to play in the NFL last week, undermanned, physically beat up, and
Yep.
hurt, and it wasn't some miraculous, like, Seattle choked the game away. No, they had to put up 38 on the road in Seattle to knock off the Seahawks, and did. Like, in Philadelphia, and you make such a great point about, the 17-point runs, the 20-point runs. It seems like something doesn't work for the Philadelphia Eagles offense. They go off to the sidelines, and it's like a whole bunch of gossip girl nonsense where that nothing, and then they turn around and it's like, you guys are getting smoked. Could you complain with each other and cry about this after the game and find a way to get this going now so we
Yeah.
don't get into these situations? But right now, it's been 5 weeks for Philly, and Barkley doesn't look good. Brown doesn't really look that good. The overall passing game doesn't look that good. And one thing that a lot of people didn't really want, they are incorporating a lot of new pieces on defense. Two
Yeah.
new edge rushers, new guys in the secondary. Now, if that's a lot of things to necessarily overcome. And the problem is you got Tampa Bay and Detroit basically just out on the open highway doing 80 miles an hour with nobody in front of them.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. So, out of your picks for AFC and NFC, who do you have going to the Super Bowl? Who wins it?
I think I really think of a quarterback in the AFC outside of Patrick Mahomes, whose time it is. I think it's Josh Allen's time. I
Mm,
really do. And even, it wasn't his best performance Sunday night, but that also kind of, in my opinion, just gets Josh Allen going a little bit more because nobody will put more on himself than Josh Allen. So, God, all right, he'll be at the facility for 22 hours a day this week instead of normal 19. I really think it's gonna be there for Buffalo. The thing for me would be where would this game be in the NFC? If it's in
mm,
Detroit, I really feel bad for Tampa. If it's in Tampa, that again, Detroit's game doesn't just necessarily always translate to grass. So I think that would be a huge factor. But I think Buffalo, Detroit, and, like, I tell my friends all the time, "Just say those words out loud to you, Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl." This is gonna happen. It's gonna happen either this
yeah,
year or next year. So, I mean, as weird as it sounds to physically say Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl, Detroit Lions and Buffalo Bills.
I love it. Oh, you're starting to convince me about the Bills, but I think it's going to be the Chiefs. I think it's going to be the Chiefs, and that pains me to say it because I'm one of the people that is just a little bit over it. It feels like we're in the Tom Brady era again, and it was so nice when we finally flipped the page from that. I think it's going to be the Lions in the Super Bowl. It just feels like it's been boiling for so long, they eventually have to break through and they have to make it. I'm going to say the Lions beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
So then we're getting a Super Bowl preview Sunday night.
Love that for us. And good observation. I didn't even put that together.
Yep, so we will get a little sneak peek of the Super Bowl Sunday night in Arrowhead, of course, for an 8:20 start. Look, I think this will certainly be fun to revisit probably in about 6 weeks. But,
It's
there's
how
something to be
ghastly
said.
wrong we are.
Everybody, I love "Oh, it's a long season, it's a long
Yeah.
season." Yeah, the teams who say that are probably 2 and 3 or 1 and 4. The teams who are 4 and 1 say, "No, wait a minute. We want this
Yeah.
to go as fast as possible." It's always anybody who says it's a long season is usually somebody that's hoping a lot of crazy things are gonna happen that favor their own team.
Let us know in the comments. We wanna hear from you. Who are your teams for AFC and NFC championships? And then who is your Super Bowl pick?